Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody is doing well. So let us continue with the chapter 8. I mean, we're gonna solve some questions related to the end of the chapter. So we start with the question 11. In the question, it asks which of the following assets and liabilities fit 1 year rate repricing sensitivity test. So let us see what is inside and what is not included in the sensitive assets and sensitive liabilities. So what we can see in here, that first comes like 3 months treasury bills. It is included because it's just within the year. 1 year treasury notes, it is included. It's like repricing sensitive asset or liability. Then we come at 20 year of treasury bonds. No, it's not included. 20 year floating rate corporate bonds, but with annual repricing, like every year it's repriced. So that means it is included. 30 year floating rate mortgage with the repricing every 2 years. That means it is not included. 30 year of floating rate mortgages with repricing every 6 months, it is included. Like it's rate sensitive asset or rate sensitive liability that is repriced every year. So overnight Fed funds included, 9-month fixed rates CDs included, 1 year fixed rate CDs included, 5-year floating rate with annual repricing included. So it's a rate sensitive asset. And common stock, no, it's not. So this is like we how categorize like from rate sensitive to rate sensitive asset to rate sensitive liabilities, like those that are not included. So fixed rate that are not repriced annually, so we just exclude them. Okay. Do you have any questions? If you don't have, I'll proceed. And the question in here, it's kind of logical question. As a bank manager, is quite certain in the interest rate that is going to fall within this next 6 months. How would the bank manager adjust the bank's 6-month repricing gap and spread to take the advantage of anticipated rise? And what if the manager believed that the rates would rise in the next 6 months? Okay, the first, if it's gonna fall, is the first. Okay, it falls. And the second question, what if it increases? Okay, rise within the 6 and fall within the 6 next month. So as we know, how would you react? You know the repricing gap, if it's positive, and when the repricing gap is negative. So when the repricing gap is positive, any increase in the interest rate will make your net interest income to increase. Or decreasing the interest rate with the positive gap will make your interest income to go down. So if interest rate increases, that brings to a net interest income to go up. But if interest rate goes down, net interest income goes down. So this is with the positive repricing gap. But when the repricing gap is negative, increase in the interest rate will reduce your net interest income. Your net interest income will go down. If it's negative, your interest income, that means if interest rate is going down, the net interest income will go up. So which it is with the repricing gap when it's negative. And the explanation, so in here we are asked to do the same thing, to apply the same logic, the same rationality. So if you're a bank manager and if you think that the next 6 months the interest rate is going to increase, fall, what would be your action? What would you try to do with your balance sheet? So what would you do is the following. as interest rate is expected to fall, the bank should, actually the bank manager should set the repricing gap to its negative position.
I'm sorry, Professor, I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Now it's better, yeah.
Okay. So as a bank manager, if you expect that the interest rate is going to fall, as a bank manager, you will try to restructure your balance sheet. You will try to make your repricing gap negative. So you will put your repricing gap to a negative position because as you want me to increase your return on rate sensitive assets and rate sensitive liability. So in this case, as rate falls, interest income will fall by less than interest expense. That will increase the net interest income itself. When the interest rate is, second question, when the interest rate is expected to rise, and you will try to put your repricing gap to a positive position, that will make your interest income to increase by more than interest expense. As a result, there will be increase in the net interest income. So as a summary, we can put it here. Rate sensitive assets versus rate sensitive liabilities. If interest rate fall, that means, let me put that, the manager of the bank would try to restructure repricing gap to negative position. Because in this case, a fall in the interest will, a fall in interest rate will bring less changes in interest income in contrast to interest expense. That will increase the net interest income eventually. So if the interest rate falls, but if the interest rate increases, the manager should try to restructure the balance sheet, the repricing gap to a positive position, because a change in the interest rate will cause a higher increase in the interest income than in interest expense. And eventually, it will bring to increase in the net interest income. So this is how we can relate the relationship between rate sensitive assets and rate sensitive liabilities with the changes in interest. Okay, let's proceed. This question, we did it. Okay, so in this question, did we do this question? No, we didn't. We didn't. Okay. Now, question number 15. Okay. Now, what is the repricing gap? So we are given the balance sheet, okay, and we are asked to find the repricing gap. So whenever you're asked to calculate the repricing gap, you should take into consideration that you should select only the rate sensitive asset and rate sensitive liabilities, not all of the assets and liabilities. So repricing gap for the period of 30 days, 3 months, 2 years. And recall the cash is non-interest earning asset, okay? We are not taking the cash into consideration. So we start with the 30 days, then we should find with the 3 months and 2 years. So repricing gap, I will call it abbreviately, okay? A part, okay, like make it like this. So repricing gap of 30 days is equal to, we're gonna consider only the that is included in 30 days. So which is first 1 month T-bill is included, which is 75 minus 170. That will bring us minus $95. Repricing gap with 3 months. So we're gonna include the following. 70, let me open the bracket, 75 plus 75, close the bracket, minus 170. That will bring us minus 20. Repricing gap for 2 years. So let us see what is inside. 75 plus 75, oops, sorry. 75 plus 75 plus 50, 2 years notes, because we are asking for 2 years repricing gap specifically, plus 25, because this one, 8 years T-notes is not included, but 5 years municipality floating rate is included because it's repriced every 6 months, minus 170, and our value is equal to $55 positive gap. So this is positive gap. And
Excuse me,
anything,
Professor,
yes,
where did you get 20?
Here is my calculation bet. 150, yeah, it's okay.
No, second year.
This one.
No,
It's clear,
yes,
yeah.
This one.
yeah, that one.
This one, it's not 20. It should be, let me see, 2 year and T notes. It's by error typing. Okay, it's a 50. It's 50. It's not 20. Thank you so much. Thank you for. So it's error type. It's a T note of 2 years. Okay, which is 50. Thank you for following. Now, okay, then we follow with the, what is the impact over the next 30 days on the net interest income if interest rate increased by 50 basis points and decreases by 75 basis? So what will be the impact on 30 days net interest income? So we will consider only the 30 days of maturity bracket. If interest rate changes by 50 basis and increase and decreases by 75 basis points. So by 30 days, we will include only the first one, this one. So repricing gap, so change in interest rate, change in net interest income will be equal to minus 95 times 0.00, okay, 5. And that should bring us, let me just calculate, 95 times 0.005, it should bring me minus 0.0475. Let me, no.
You took 50 basis points as 0.005?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. 50 basis is just shown in terms of percentages, is 0.005. And change in interest rate. Change in interest rate. That shows that increase, sorry, it was the increase. Now there will be decrease in interest by 75 basis, 0.0075. And that will bring us positive change, $0.725. Okay. Part C. The following 1 year runoff are expected 10 million for 2-year T notes and 20 million for 8-year T notes. So here's the key point. Following 1 year T note, okay, 1 year runoffs, like 10 million and 20 million. And what is the 1 year repricing gap? So don't pay attention to this, okay? That means that don't pay the attention to the years of the T notes. Like one is the 2-year T note, the other one is 8-year T note. So these 2 and 8-year T notes will be run off in 1 year, okay? That's why we need to take it into consideration as 1 year. So 1 year repricing gap. What is the 1 year repricing gap then? So repricing gap RG is equal to, we are opening the brackets, same like 75 plus 75 plus 50 plus. If I'm not correct me, okay? We're calculating repricing gap of 1 year. 75, 75, 50. Plus this 2 years and 8 years T notes will be run off within the year. Plus 10 plus 20 plus this 5 years municipality, which is repriced every 6 months, that is included in 1 year. 25 and minus 170. Is there any mistakes?
I have a question.
Yes.
Why don't you take 100 then? 8-year T notes.
No. We are taking only those that has been mentioned in here. 2 years and 8 years T notes. The 10 million and 2 million. So 20, like they will be running off like only for 10 million and 20 million for within the year. But these are not, shouldn't be included. We are repricing only for 1 year.
Excuse me, Professor, I have here a question also.
Yes.
Why did you take there 50?
Yes,
this
okay, thank you. I was expecting you to just notify me why did I take it. I shouldn't take it because it's 2-year T notes and there has not been any additional information about it. So I should not accept it. Okay, thank you so much. So 75, 75, 10, 20, 25. So 75 is okay. 10 and 20 we are including because it mentioned in the question, like 2-year T notes and 8-year T notes will be repriced within the year. So we need to consider only this. And plus 25, which is this, minus 170. And you get, as if you calculate, 150, 60, 1895. So 205 minus 170, 35, okay. $35. Okay, let's move further. Part D. In part D, it says, if the runoff are considered, part C, I mean, what is the effect on the net interest income at the year end if the interest rate increased by 50 basis and decreased by 75 basis? So we need to apply how it will affect our changes in on 35. So first of all, the change in net interest income will be following, like 35 times 0.005. This will give us $0.175 change, and change in net interest income when there is a reduction, like 35 times minus 0.075. And this will give us the amount by how much your net interest income will be reduced. And guys, I would like you to make a comment in here. The comment is that why, okay, mathematically we understand that, okay, this mathematically is understood why it's reducing. If interest rate falls, with the positive gap, why it reduce the net interest income?
Because interest revenue would be less, maybe.
Yes, but clarify, add some words to your clarification. Like, I mean, the interest revenue will be decreasing more than your interest expense. This is the, so interest revenue or interest income will be, will fall by more than interest expense in the case of positive repricing gap. If interest rate falls. This is the explanation for this. But for this, if interest rate increases, that means if interest rate increase, that shows that interest revenue increase by more than interest expense. In the case of positive repricing gap. Okay, this is part D, we did it. Okay, great. Do you have any question? If you don't, I will proceed for further calculation. Okay. Now, I'm saving this. Okay. Question 16. Okay, in the question 16, we're given balance sheet with liabilities, so on, and we're given some extra information here. Suppose the interest rate falls, such as average yield on rate sensitive asset increases by 45 basis points, on the average yield on rate sensitive liability increases by 35 basis. So first, calculate the bank's cumulative gap and the gap ratio. Okay, we need to calculate the cumulative gap and gap ratio for it. So what we will do with just a gap is rate sensitive asset minus rate sensitive liability. We know all. It's just straightforward. So A is 550. So let me put it by number. Cumulative gap is equal to 550,000 minus 575,000. No, sorry, 375. 375,000. 375. In total, it makes 175,000. And our gap ratio is equal to 175,000 divided by total assets, which is 1,570,000. That would give us 11.5, 15%. This is a gap ratio and the cumulative gap. Okay, everybody knows we're not considering the fixed rate. We're not considering fixed rate because fixed rates are not repriced. Okay. And B, assuming that the bank does not change the composition of its balance sheet, calculate the resulting change in the bank interest income and interest expense and net interest income. So how it would affect the net interest income and net interest expense in the B part. So first of all, let's see what will be our change in interest income, change in interest income, or it is the same as interest revenue. So it is 550,000 times 0.0045. Let me make it like this.
Why 45?
Because
Oh,
here,
45 base.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
rate sensitive assets increased by 45 or multiplied by a positive number, okay?
Mm.
And that should give us, if you calculate, $2.475. And let me make it like this. Change in interest expense is equal to 375,000 times, we can see that by 0.0, is it negative number? Yeah, no, it's positive, increase 35. That should give us 1,312.50. And change in net interest income is equal to
The difference?
yeah, just difference. 75 minus 1,312.50. 1,602.50 dollars.
Professor,
Okay.
may I ask this?
Yes, please go.
In the gap ratio, there is a division, and the answer is 11%. But shouldn't be there like -1, or it should be like 100%?
No, it's a positive way. It's where actually the minus should be here. If it's minus, okay, it's a positive side. We are showing the positive sign, okay, here.
No, I mean the division 175.
175,000 divided by 1 million, yeah. Minus
Oh, okay.
1,000,005. We are dividing by total assets, okay. It's just cumulative gap by total assets.
Oh, understood.
Okay. Okay, let's move to the part C. Part C, explain how the cumulative gap and the spread effects influence this increase in net interest income. So cumulative gap effect work to increase actually the net interest income. That is, the cumulative gap was positive as we found it in part A. And while the interest rate increased. So increase in the interest rate and with a positive cumulative gap, it works to increase actually the net interest income. So that shows that change in net interest income is more than change in net interest expense. That is the result of increase in net interest income. And spread effect, it also worked to increase the net interest income because spread increased by 10 basis points according to the spread effect as spread increases. And we know the spread effect is how calculated is difference between the lending and the deposit, between the liabilities and the interest. So the difference between the here 45 and this one is positive number, okay, and that effect makes it works positive sign. Okay, so change in the interest rate, change in the basis, so you can see that there's a positive. If it was the vice versa, then you could see that it's reduced. So change in interest income is more than the change in interest expense, even in this case of the spread. So this is the explanation should be in the part C. Let me just type it. So cumulative gap worked, cumulative gap affect work to increase cumulative gap and spread affects affects work to increase net interest income. As we can see from higher increase in interest income versus interest expense. Okay, that's it. Let's move. Question 17 is the same, guys. The same, but with a different thing. Like in here we had an increase, but here we have a decrease. Decrease basis points. Let me go quickly over it. And so, A. So as we have here, calculate the cumulative gap ratio, and the gap ratio in the cumulative will be equal to 550 minus 575. That would give you minus 25. So in here we have negative gap, as you can see, guys. We have negative gap here, and we have a negative gap ratio as well, because minus 25 divided by total assets, which is 1,570,000. That would show that you have negative gap ratio minus 1.59. The gap ratio will be equal minus 1.59%. So part B, the calculation is exactly the same, but with a different direction. So calculate the gap ratio, assuming that the bank doesn't change the composition of the balance sheet. So we should calculate the resulting change in the interest income, interest expense, and change in net interest income. So as we proceed, we can see that how it changes. 550 times minus 0.0015. Why minus? Because there is a decrease. I highlighted here, it's a decrease. And minus 825. And this is interest income. Now we're talking about interest expense, 575 times minus 0.0005. That would bring us minus $287.50. And changing the net interest income, it's minus 825 minus, in the bracket we have minus 287. And so it will give us, as we can see, calculate just a second, 530. So our change in net interest income will be negative 537. And part C, as a bank, the bank's cumulative gap is negative and the interest rate decreased, yet the net interest income decreased as well. So explain how the cumulative, so you know, according to the logic, guys, as we said, if it was negative, if you remember, like at the beginning of the class today, I mentioned that with a positive gap, it will go with the same direction as the interest go, but with a negative, it will go in the opposite, okay? The net interest income, the effect of the net interest income. But in here, we have a negative, although we have a negative cumulative gap and the interest rate decreases, yet we have negative net interest income. So the explanation, they ask you, so how it affects actually, and explain how the cumulative gap and the spread effects influence the decrease in net interest income. But logically, it should go up, but there's something should be explained by, okay, by numerically, we can see mathematically can be explained, but we should be able to explain in terms of banking perspectives. So cumulative gap effect works to increase net interest income. That's very true, because a positive cumulative gap with increase of interest rate, it increases net interest income, but negative cumulative gap with a negative interest rate decreases, okay? That should make the net interest income to work up. However, the spread effect, on the other hand, work to decrease the net interest income, because the spread decreases by 10 basis points. According to the spread effect, net interest income decreases. So that means that increase in net interest income due to the spread effect was dominated by the decrease in net interest income due to the spread effect. Okay, here, if you compare with the previous case, as you can see, the spread effect dominates the cumulative gap itself. Now, because of the spread, we can see that decrease in even the question itself, the condition, you can see that 15 basis points in asset will be deteriorated, and only 5 basis points will be deteriorated in the liability side. So cumulative gap works let me put it more clearly. Negative cumulative gap works to increase net interest income with decline in interest rate, but in the case of spread effect, it works to reduce net interest income. That means how it happens, that shows that reduction in interest revenue is higher than in interest expense. That makes net interest income to go down with decline or with a decrease of interest rate. This is how we can actually explain. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Okay, there's another question, question 18. Let me go over it. So in the question 18, we can see the balance sheet, and there are some questions is asked like, what is the repricing gap if the planning period is 30 days, 3 months, and 2 years? So the same thing, we're calculating the repricing gap for 30 days. I'll be very quick. I will not write the formulas itself, okay? Because we know how to do it. So if it's 30 days, we will consider only the 1 month T-bills, which means that 150 minus 340, that should give us minus 190. This is repricing gap, okay? And when it's 3 months, is, if you can see here, 150, 150. So I'll directly put 300, 150 plus 150 minus 340. So our cumulative gap is reduced to minus 40. Repricing gap, sorry. And repricing gap with the 2 years, I should include 150, 150, 2 years, 100, I should include it. And this one I'm not including, I'm including this 50, because it is every 6 months, it's repriced. So in total, I should have 300, 450. Okay, like 150 plus 150 plus 100 plus 50. In total, it makes 450 minus 340. It's because on the side of the liability, we have only 7 years of liability, which is fixed rate. And it comes with 110. So this is what this is how we find the repricing gap for different maturity buckets. Okay, 30 days, 3 months, and 2 years. So B, what is the impact over the next 3 months on net interest income if interest rate on rate sensitive asset is 50 basis increases and on liability 75 basis increases? So let's go. So we need to see how it will affect it. So we need to come up with the 30 months with the 30 days. No, let me just see with the 3 months, the next 3 months. That means that we should include this 300. So 300 times 00, how many bases? 50 bases, 5. So which is 1.5 million. This is interest income, and interest expense is 340 times how many bases? Three months, interest rate increases by 75 basis. Okay, 340 times 0.0075, which is, if you calculate, 340 times 0075, so it's gonna come up with 2.55. So we can see here the net change in net interest income. Change in net interest income will be, if you get a difference, 1.5 minus 2.55, it's almost 1, it's minus 0.95.
Professor, may I ask, please?
Yes, please.
Like
No. Wait, it's
next 3
105.
months.
It's 3 months, okay?
Okay.
It's 3 months. 3 months maturity. Maturity bucket. Okay, what is your question?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that it was for 3 months.
Yeah, it was 3 months. It was 3 months. Now, look, every time we do it, like asset and the liability, like the changes in the interest rate, is they are going in the same direction, like or increase or decrease. We did not solve any question with the opposite direction, like on the asset is increases, on the other side is decreases. So in part C, what is the impact over the next 2 years on the net interest income if the rate sensitive asset increases by 50 basis points and rate sensitive liability increases by 75 basis points? So like
Sorry, I have a question again.
Yes, please.
Look in part A, third one. You have 450 there. Why is it 450? Shouldn't it be 400?
It is because, look, 150 once, second 150, which is 300. Then we have 100 as well, which is 400, isn't it? And plus we have 50. It's 5 years municipality, but it is reset every 6 months.
So you can do this as well.
Yes, surely, we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Now, what will happen if our maturity bracket is 2 years? So we will go in the following way. We need to calculate the interest income as well with the 2 years, which means 450. If you calculate all of them, the interest income will be 450 times 0.005. That will bring you, just a second, times, okay, 2.25. And when it comes to the interest expense, it's 340 times 0.075, and it should bring you 2.04. So 2.25 minus 2.04 will be equal to 0.21. You can see we have a positive number here. And in part D, it asks you, please explain the difference in your answer, A, B, and C. Why in one answer the negative change, while in other is positive? What is the explanation for this? So guys, whenever the interest rate changes, actually two effects take the place in here. First one is the cumulative gap, the other one is spread. So explaining the result of B and C, as we can see, look, the questions are same. You see it, like 50 basis, 50 basis, 75, exactly same questions, but change in net interest income is different. The reason is that the effect of the spread in the first one, in the B, is higher, okay, than the cumulative gap effect. But in the third one, cumulative gap, so in the part C, the cumulative gap effect is larger than spread effect. That is why it makes your net interest income to be equal to a positive number. Did you get it? So we know that both cumulative gap and spread effect, they explain how. The cumulative gap says if it's positive, okay? In here, in 3 months, we have a positive cumulative gap, yes? Positive cumulative gap worked to increase net interest income because interest revenue increased higher than interest expense. But in spread, it was opposite. And spread effect was higher than cumulative gap effect in part B. But in part C, cumulative gap had higher effect on net interest income than spread effect. Is that clear? Okay. So
I'm sorry, I have a question still.
yes, please.
In part B, you said that it is a positive cumulative gap, but
Yes.
It's neg.
No, here.
Why?
Here.
Uh-huh. Ah, you mean this?
Wait. This is spread effect. 3 months packet. Yes, very true. Very true. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, okay, this is the 3 months. Let me just type it, because if you don't type it, then really you just get confused more. So that means that in here, positive gap worked to increase in interest revenue increase higher than expected, but in spread it was opposite. And spread effect was higher than the cumulative gap effect in part B. Okay, that's true. That positive gap was in the part C. But in part B, the explanation is correct, guys. Positive cumulative gap worked to increase net interest income, because interest revenue increased higher than the interest expense. But in spread, it was the opposite, and the spread effect was higher than cumulative gap effect in part B. So this is the way we have to change it. Right. Let me recollect my explanation then again. So positive cumulative gap worked to increase the net income, because interest revenue increased higher than the interest revenue, and spread, and it had more effects than spread effect in part C. That's correct. And when it was 3 months, our cumulative gap was equal to minus an increase in the interest rate should lead you to higher. So in part B, negative cumulative gap worked to reduce net interest income, and additionally the spread effect pushed more. Wait a second. And yes, and spread effect pushed more to a reduction in net interest income. Okay, this is correct now. Because I was thinking, I just by mistake I saw that it was a positive, but it's a negative. Okay, it's negative. It's negative. Now it's okay now. Okay, guys, this was the question that I wanted to solve as well. And there's a question 19. I think we're not having time. We're lack of the time, like 1 minute left. But let me see what is the question is about this. Question 19. So we have to calculate the gap, assuming that composition of balance sheet. And what is the resulting change in net interest? And explain. Okay, it's the same thing. It's the same question but with the different numbers. Okay, it's the same thing, just with the different numbers. And there are many questions can be solved, but we will stop in this chapter, because in the coming chapter there are questions that we need to follow up, that we will deal as well with the repricing gap. As well, we're going to have the maturity gap and duration as well. So let's leave these things to next chapter. It is interest rate risk 2 that we're going to deal with. So if you don't have any questions, thank you so much for your attention and for following me and making some corrections. I'm happy that you're really following me. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes, please.
I have some question about the previous problems, number 14.
Okay, well, let's come to the 14. Okay. So what is your question?
So in what cases we do consider these rates 7%, 10%, 6 and 7% in calculation of
I knew.
net interest income?
I knew that you're gonna ask this, and once you asked it, and the reason why when we consider them, when we don't consider. If you read the questions carefully, it's here. It asks what is the expected. Okay, it's expectation, net interest income, the expected value. Then you should consider this. But in here, we're asking just impact on net interest income. Okay, what if change in net interest income and interest expense? So the current one and not the expected one. This means that how much money you're gonna receive, okay? This 10%, 7%, it is the interest rate that is charged when this bank is providing the loan. And this is the interest rate is charged when the bank is borrowing the money from the depositors or from the other financial institutions. So when you're asked to calculate expected value, then you should consider it, okay? The keyword is here is expected. Is that clear?
Yes, so in all other cases, we should use cumulative gap model, yes?
Yeah. If it doesn't ask expected, you just use it. You don't pay attention to this interest rates. If you're asked to calculate expected change in net interest income, then you have to take into consideration.
Only in expected, okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Any questions?
No. Thank you.
No,
Okay, thank you so much. See you on Monday. Have a nice weekend.
Goodbye.
thank you, goodbye.
See you.